all of us are lesbians, okay? We're in love with a woman's mind, with a woman's construction of the ideal man. Kim Seon-ho is just a man. He's not a Korean drama stud, okay?
Hi, everybody. Dr. Chi here, and I've got Grace Jung, who I'm interviewing today. It's such a pleasure to have her here. She is a professional comedian, so she's not like your cousin who tells jokes. She is a professional. She is the winner of the Academy of American Poets Award. She's the author of the book Delhi Ideology, filmmaker, translator, Fulbright scholar, recently earned her PhD from UCLA, so she's a fellow Bruin in cinema and media studies. And I found out about Grace through her podcast, the K-Drama School, and I was just was amazed by her her brilliance, all the amazing things she was reminding us about, things like Western imperialism having an impact on what we were watching K-Drama. Oh yeah, that's kind of important. And also just her brave honesty about growing up in an immigrant community, in the Korean immigrant community, in the United States. It's not all shits and giggles, right? Pardon my French, guys. But sometimes, it's got a little muck in there. But so thank you so much for coming today. I'm so excited to have you.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. It's such a pleasure to be here.
I have been watching Hometown Cha-Cha-Cha.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you've been paying attention to the drama about Kim Seon-ho.
No,
Do you have
what's
an
going on?
opinion about that?
What's going on with him?
Well,
Yeah,
so I'm not one to pay attention to idols or any of that stuff. But apparently, the lead of Hometown Cha-Cha-Cha, his ex-girlfriend, after the show had ended, came out and posted online that he had forced her to have an abortion, and that he's really a terrible guy, and everything's wonderful, and he's getting all this
oh boy,
opportunities, and he's really trash. And
oh my God.
But the K-drama community has been had their panties in a wad over this. I'm but he's such a great guy. How could you do this to him? How could you do this to her? I can't believe it. I'm you don't know him? Why are we caring? But apparently people, not only in Korea, care. I expect people in Korea to care. And they care in a particular way.
Right.
It seems like people in the US and around the world care in a different way. Where they're cancel culture.
Word.
And he's they don't have cancel culture in Korea. He'll be fine. In a year, he'll have a new job and
they definitely have cancel culture in Korea. They definitely do. In the 90s, if any celebrity got caught in a scandal, they could literally sign off their career, bye-bye. Anything. It could be really minor. It's we caught you kissing your girlfriend outside of your apartment. How dare you? It could be as minor as that, and it would be over. They could literally sign off their papers and just retire and go and open up some noodle shop somewhere in bumfuck. Who cares? It was that severe. Now cancel culture is it's still there. I mean, it's really associated more with the Me Too movement and all of that. That's been really hyped up since early 2018 in South Korea. But cancel culture is real in South Korea as well. Cancel culture, I would say, is also a byproduct of capitalist economies. Here's the thing. At the end of the day, whatever Kim Seon-ho did with his girlfriend at the time, it ain't our business. All right? That's the thing. A lot of these news outlets and these bloggers, these women who are victims, when they go and publicize their personal stories about celebrities who are rising up to fame, we got to ask, well, why now? What is their motivation to do this now? And the bigger, more important question is, this woman talking about him right now, does that help her find healing? Does that bring back her child? Did she want to have that baby? Does that undo all the harm that has happened to her? It doesn't. I know that it doesn't. Okay. I've been down that road. I've dated a lot of toxic Korean guys. Okay. That's the other thing people need to wake up to. These Korean dramas are written by women. These are women's fantasies about the ideal man. Okay. Essentially, all of us are lesbians. Okay. We're in love with a woman's mind, with a woman's construction of the ideal man. Kim Seon-ho is just a man. He's not
Mm-hmm.
a Korean drama stud, okay? That's a fucking fantasy. It's a story. So yeah, of course his real lived reality doesn't match up with the thing that we see in the screen because that's a goddamn TV show. Really try to measure your expectations, balance your expectations and your disappointment there, okay? Wake up, we're watching TV.
Right.
Also recognize Kim Seon-ho is a person. Who among us have not made mistakes? Who among us have not been a shitty partner to our partners in the past? I know I've been a bitch plenty of times in relationships. I know that I've also been on the receiving end of really horrible, horrible things happen to me with boyfriends and, other partners. So to me, it's like, that ain't my business. I'm not
Mm-hmm.
gonna go and troll him around and push this news around. Like I don't even that's why I didn't even know. I didn't even know that this thing went down with Kim Seon-ho,
Mm-hmm.
because at the end of the day, it's gossip, right?
Right.
So we gotta ask ourselves whenever we start trolling around all these celebrities that we don't know personally, people whose business we don't know,
Tell it.
why are we having that gossip? Why are we having that tea time? For what?
Mm-hmm.
Because it's
Mm-hmm.
toxic. Talking shit is toxic. It's just toxic. It's like whether it's a celebrity we're talking shit about or our friend that we're talking shit about, it's toxic. We really have to ask ourselves, why am I talking shit about this person right now?
Mm-hmm.
And at the end of the day, whatever thing that I am obsessed with and focused on that I'm criticizing and projecting outwardly, that very thing is a thing I have a problem with myself. People think being
Mm-hmm.
woke is being angry. It is not that. Being woke is getting down to the core of what the issue is. Why do I have a problem with this person? Why do I have a problem with this whole concept or movement? It's a problem with myself. That is wokeness. That is enlightenment. And I love what you said about like this international attraction that Kim Seon-ho is gaining through this sensational press media, right? About his thing with his girlfriend. Well, that's a whole nother bag. Like nowadays, a Korean celebrity will do a show on Netflix and then they'll get instant world fame and recognition, right?
Right.
That means they will just as easily get instant world defamation, instant
Mm-hmm.
world shaming, you know? Like that's not so fame is a real double-edged sword. It's not all good stuff. It's terrifying, okay? To have millions of people, tens, hundreds, now billions of people staring down and judging you. Imagine you being in that shoe, right? And if you
Yeah.
understand the inhumanity and the terror of that, you would not be talking shit on Twitter about this Kim Seon-ho guy and the mistakes that he made in his past. All of us have made those mistakes. So I say, cut him some slack. And if anything, go and donate some money to some women's shelter or to Planned Parenthood or to, do something progressive for women's rights rather than talking shit about Kim Seon-ho because that does not bring any progress. Okay. That is not human rights. So that's my 2 cents there.
Whew. Okay, okay, great. It
Yeah.
is a good, important question to ask. Why do we care? What are
Oh,
we not
it's
doing?
very.
Like I was talking to
Mm-hmm.
some friends, I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
I shouldn't care about this. I should be thinking about eating my six fruits and vegetables every
Mm-hmm.
day so I can like maintain my health, you know? Like
Oh
that's what I
yeah.
need to be thinking about.
Mm-hmm.
And not this random dude on the other side of the
Mm-hmm.
planet who may or may not have gotten a girl pregnant, whatever, you know?
Mm-hmm. I
And it's
like
also
the
some like
word you
high
just used.
school.
Yeah, it is very high school, but I like the word you just used. Like, I should be caring about my health. If we
Yeah.
find ourselves caring about things that are not healthy, right? That's a sign of our own health and where we're at with that. We're
Mhm.
not quite healthy there. Like, really, I just want people. I say this stuff to. I used to say this stuff to my students too. Sometimes like I'm sure you see this when you're teaching, right? Like students will get caught up in the critique of something and
Mhm.
they'll just really fester there. And I'm like, I understand where your heart is at, but do you feel good right now? Do you feel any empowerment right now? Or are you just angry and you're just criticizing everybody, pointing fingers, pointing fingers? What about this critique is productive to the bigger goal? And if they can't
Okay,
see that,
great. I'm
right?
learning like some pedagogical tools here.
Yeah,
I,
Loretta Ross over at Smith College, she brings in, she has a TED talk. She's writing a book. It's going to be published by one of the big ones like Knopf or whatever. She's bringing humanity back to liberal thinking. because, you know,
Mhm.
and I understand why us liberals and progressives were so, you know, like militant the last 4 or 5 years. We had a very good reason to be that way. We had the
Right.
trauma of the Trump presidency. We had the trauma of the Me Too movement. We had the trauma of the Black Lives Matter protests and the lives that were lost. We had a lot of trauma. So it makes sense why we had to double down. But it's time for us to reawaken back to what were we fighting for? That's the big
Mm.
thing that Loretta Ross says. Like, I understand what you're fighting against. What are you fighting for? Did you write
Mhm.
that down? Gotta write it down.
Yeah.
That's the goal, right?
Well, it
I
reminds me of
wasn't saying
the
it to you,
Black
but like,
radical imagination, right? And how like there's all these Black scholars who are like, we need to be fighting for this utopia. What does a Black utopia look like,
yes,
right?
yes.
And we have to be able to articulate it so we know like
Uh-huh.
where we're going and not just what
Yeah.
we're running from.
Doing that, like, that's progressive work, because we're walking into the future that we want, that we're walking towards the
Right.
future that we're imagining, rather than sitting with the past and bitching about it in the same spot, if not devolving into there and becoming creatures, you know, turning into angry little creatures. So I love that. Yes, walk towards your utopia. Yeah.
I did want to ask you, as a
Mhm.
comedian,
Yeah.
about the Dave Chappelle special,
Yeah.
whether you saw it, what you thought about it.
Yeah. I did not watch the Dave Chappelle special,
Okay.
because I read Roxane Gay's review in the New York Times, and all the themes that she was mentioning, they were all said before in his previous special.
Hmm.
And the story that he tells about that trans woman that he befriended, he told that story before too. And I was like,
Oh, he did. This is
he
the first time
did.
I remember.
Mm, yeah.
Oh,
A lot of people think it's new. It's not. He's told that story before. So I'm like, this guy is using his power and the platform of Netflix just to double down on things that people are criticizing. And the thing is, a comedian's job is to make people laugh. A
right.
comedian's job is to bring release. A comedian's job is to call out what other people are too afraid to call out. But what this guy is doing is he's protecting other fellow celebrities. He's protecting his own ego, which we have the right to critique. In Dave
Oh,
Chappelle's case, people who were diehard fans of his, like Grace Jung here, they're refusing to watch his special because he's not saying anything new. Dave
mm,
Chappelle is doing the very thing that I'm criticizing right now, right? He's not looking to the future. He's dwelling on the past and hanging on to concepts that are antiquated and that people have been letting go. People are no longer laughing at misogynistic jokes. People are no longer laughing at transphobic and homophobic jokes. People are no longer laughing at anti-Asian racist jokes that Dave Chappelle has really made a huge career on, despite the fact that he's married to a Filipino woman. Okay. So I say he's flown too close to the sun and his wings are singed. I don't think he's necessarily I mean, he's still a legend. He's still an amazing comic, but he's not using his power for good right now. He's just using it for his own ego and to protect, you know, just the 1% essentially, and to protect old concepts, conservative concepts, and it's disappointing to see. And until he reckons with that, until he comes to terms with that and changes, right? I can't say that I would be interested in watching any of his specials moving forward. You know, I was actually supposed to see Dave Chappelle live 2 weeks ago at the Hollywood Bowl, but the day of, no, the day before that night, I started getting a huge migraine Wednesday night, and then
mm.
Thursday I was supposed to go see him. I was like nauseous. I couldn't move,
Oh,
and I had to
no.
tell my friend, she's another comic, Kanisha. I was like, I can't go to this show, and I was like, man, like, what was that migraine about? Like, it's not like I was being unhealthy. I was taking care of myself. I'm pretty sure it was my subconscious or my inner being just being like, you don't want to
Mm.
go to this show. You don't want to go to this show. Like, you've moved on. I've moved on.
One of the things I keep thinking is like there's this moment in a lot of
Yeah.
comedians' lives in which
Yeah.
if they make it, they're
Mm,
great. And then like maybe 10 years passes and all of a sudden
they
they're
got
no
too
longer
comfortable. They
funny.
got too
Or like
comfortable.
they haven't changed with the times and realized that, oh, the world is moving on without me.
Changed with
And
the
like I remember
times.
before it was Jerry Seinfeld, you know,
Mhm.
now it's
Mhm.
Dave Chappelle. And I'm like,
Mhm.
Grace Young, it better not be you in 10 years, because
I mean, like that's what money does to people. Money is usually the problem. Money dehumanizes everybody. Once you start dehumanizing yourself because of money, you start dehumanizing others because of money. You no longer see people. You don't know. You no longer see yourself, and that's the big problem. I was hosting at the Hollywood Improv open mic, which is it was like a big honor for me. Like it was like a big career step forward. I was happy about that. In the lineup and in the marquee, like or the post with all the list of names of comics who are going to be performing that night, Louis C.K.'s name is there, right?
oh.
And I'm thinking, I want to see Louis C.K.'s set. I want to see what he has to say because he's gotten his ass dragged through the mud and he's pretty good with introspection. I mean, he was humiliated. He was taken the fuck down. And what does he have to say? And the reason why I'm interested is because I've been asking this since the Me Too movement in 2017. I kept asking feminists and scholars. I was like, what comes after Me Too?
Mm-hmm.
We're mad, we're venting, that's important. What comes after? And nobody had an answer. They just had more anger. And I'm like, I want to hear from the horse's mouth. What is the answer to moving forward? Because it does involve those men. Our lives don't continue without those people. They're still a part of our goddamn society, you know? And really, that's where the healing begins. When those people who made those mistakes are able to face their mistakes and face themselves and be like, I want to change for the better. How can I? I want to dialogue with you feminists. How can I? In Louis C.K.'s case, he does listen. He does listen to his critics, not like Dave Chappelle doubling down. Louis C.K. has been listening. So I want to see and hear what he has to say. And I want to see, like, learn from that, be like, okay, so this is what he did differently. This is what he did differently. The only other man who's done that, another, like, cis male white man, is the creator of Rick and Morty. He had the same thing happen. A woman called him out because she was working for him, but he kept hitting on her. She kept saying no. So he used his power to, like, push her down in the ranks and, make her work life a living hell. And
Oh,
he
no.
he admitted, he had this moment on his podcast where he said, this is what I did. And you could hear him like taking pauses and modulating his breathing, because even admitting that was traumatic for him. That's what people don't understand. You think these people are just monsters. No, these people are
Mm.
monsters, but there's an inner being that's really a human person. And once that monster and inner being starts to communicate and dialogue, that's when the change happens, right? And this guy was doing it on his podcast and taking like 20-30 minutes to admit to it, come to terms with it, and explain how he apologized to this woman and work things out with her. And then she came out later and said, he's the one person I can say that actually took matters into his own hands and actually offered some progressive change for me. And I feel healed. And, like, he's a good example of what we can expect out of men who make these mistakes, right?
So it's like a real, like, truth and reconciliation where you can, like, become
Oh,
reconciled to one
perfect.
another.
Perfect expression. Truth and reconciliation. Oh my God.
Where
That's
you
what
speak
we
the truth
need.
and you're like, yes, this is truth.
Oh,
Now, how can we build something better?
oh, oh, I love
Right?
that. I love that. That
But
could
they
be the
always say, we let's have a truth and reconciliation committee, or what
yes,
have you. Like, so
yes.
they did it in South Africa with apartheid,
Yeah.
right? I mean,
It
obviously
comes
they
to
don't
South
have
Africa.
problems still,
Yeah,
obviously, but
it comes to South
like,
Africa, but they do it in all these countries where they had these, like, genocides and wars. South Korea also has a Truth and Reconciliation Committee, and they're digging out mass graves and trying to find, like, the bones and the family members and do proper mourning and blah blah blah. But Truth and Reconciliation for the Me Too movement, that is amazing. I mean, that's a
yeah,
paper, that's a book,
yeah.
that's a research. Yeah, I love that.
I'm amazed by my own brilliance. I'm just kidding.
Yes, yes,
Well, on
yes.
that note, where can I don't have any more questions for you,
Yeah,
Grace. This has
yeah.
been such a pleasure.
Oh yeah.
Where can we find you and keep up with all the things that you're doing? Your 25 jobs. Tell us.
Yeah, you could find my podcast, K-Drama School, kdramaschool.com. My website is hj.com, aechjay.com. And my publications are listed there. My show dates are listed there. My book link is listed there. So yeah, and you could follow me at HJ or at Kdrama School on Instagram and Twitter. And I'm around.
Thank you so much for getting woke with me. Please like and subscribe this and share it with your friends, family, enemies, and frenemies. Take care and have a good week.